think that what Foggy says about respect for the past and hope for the future can be extrapolated to the show itself, because Daredevil Born Again has the essence of the previous seasons, but it works as a new starting point and it stands its own. How do you find the balance between honor the past and embracing the change?
So that line is in there for exactly that reason. So I worked on the Punisher, and I was around during the Daredevil shows, and they're near and dear to my heart. So the idea always was to take the things that we just love so much, those characters, the depth of their relationships, the intense conflict that Fisk and Murdoch have inside themselves, and then to be like aware that we're here and now. So it's really the idea of taking something that I would say is like historical and canon and fantastic in the world of Daredevil, and then moving it into now. And then, because that eternal conflict between these guys is so intense, with the Mayor Fisk run that Charles Soule did, we now had an opportunity to amp it up on a huge level. I mean, Fisk has finally attained a goal that he's probably wanted since he was first put down in ink in the 60s.
I wanted to talk about the conflict between Wilson and Matt, because an interesting difference between Born Again and Daredevil is that Matt and Wilson meet in the first episode instead of in the last ones. How do you think that this creative decision, this change, impacts on the path and in the mindset of the characters?
So, I mean, that scene I pitched to them very early on. We had discussed, like, we'd like to see them together early. And that whole kind of face-off that you see, it's there to set the table. It's there to kind of tell you and each other, it's like, I'm trying to be a better person. And when you hear that from either one of them, you take it with a grain of salt, and it says like, oh, there's an explosion going to happen.
It's funny, originally, before Dario had come on, they weren't going to meet until way later in the season. And that was one of my biggest notes, was like, that's what people expect. Let's not. And when Dario came in and pitched and is like, let's rip that Band-Aid off. That's exactly what I wanted, was to make sure that we give the audiences what they want, because both of them are on these new courses, but let's have that touchstone, because that's gonna say everything about the rest of the show.
And when you have Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and their thing is so kind of electric and magic, it's been 7 years. You couldn't wait until the end.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of put those two chemicals together and see what happens.
The action of Daredevil Born Again has the violence and the grittiness of the previous seasons, but at the same time is way more acrobatic, like in the comics. What aspects of the show do you think that have evolved with the incorporation of it to Marvel Studios and Disney+?
I don't know if we've really, Marvel Studios and Disney Plus has really tried to change the overall kind of look or style of it. I think ultimately what we wanted to do was have the show evolve and be also a bit more, I guess, relevant to modern times, because these characters have grown up. Am I answering the right question?
I think absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
And I think in terms of the action and the storytelling, it's very much rooted in the old show that we love, but we're pushing everything forward 7 years, and there's things that we get to do now that we couldn't do in 7 years ago. And particularly with the action, we get to push it farther, and we get to spend a lot more time with some of the action sequences. And then it's just all of the weight and the gravity of the characters' lives from previously, we've been trying to kind of expand and layer as if 7 years have gone by. And so we feel it, and you feel it when you watch it, hopefully.